Hello, my name is Debbie, Owl and Gator Stitcher. Welcome to Flosstube number 19. Today is Wednesday, September 29th, 2021. This is a video mainly about cross stitch, sometimes a little bit about what I'm reading and watching and life thrown in. So if you're new here, welcome. I hope that you will like what you see and click on that subscribe button. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you for coming back and checking in with me every couple of weeks. I really appreciate it that you take the time, and for those of you who leave comments, I love the interaction with you as well. So in terms of life, nothing too exciting going on here. I did make a venture out to a cross stitch store about an hour away from me, and I'll talk a lot more about that when I get into the haul section. Before I jump into my stitching, I just want to highlight someone in the Under 1000 Subs Club. I'd like to highlight Beth, who is the Desert Stitcher. She's based in Arizona, and hence her name. And Beth has a lot of variety of projects like many of us, and she has some lovely stitching, and she also has in her most recent video, one of her cats made an appearance. So as you know, I'm a cat person, so I love it. So if you haven't had a chance to check out Beth, the Desert Stitcher, I suggest that you go on over and see what she has to show. So now I'm going to jump into showing you my stitching. As always, a lot of my decisions about what I stitch are based on the various Facebook games that I play, and I'll reference them from time to time as I show you what I'm stitching on. So the first thing I want to show you is Midnight Vigil. This is from Heaven and Earth Designs. This is the mini version, and the artwork is by Lisa Parker. So I pulled this out this past week because this was for Crystal Academy, the last spell that I had to master. And so I needed to get 750 stitches in this. Also for So You Think You Can Stitch, we're doing the Amazing Race, and we had to put in 200 stitches on, I can't remember, Magic was the one I picked. I think it was Magic or Science, and I said this kitty was magical. So here is where I am now. Basically what I was doing was taking some of the colors over here, a lot of these browns, and pulled them in. So you can see the brown, this is showing the sash on the curtain. So the sash here, and then sort of coming up, and then they would sort of come over here and then into the frame of the window. So I like that you can really start to see things coming out already in this pattern. Obviously that's the advantage of doing a mini as opposed to the full size. So I'm really enjoying this. This is a project I started at the end of last year, and I like the progress that I've made on it so far. Next piece I'd like to show is Artecy White Owl, artwork by Kayomi Harai. This was a piece that I pulled out because through the Semi-Sane group, I am doing their version of bingo, and I did the insane version, which is for everything that you link, you have to increase your stitch count by 100. So I think this was not almost on 800, so I needed to get 800 stitches. Most of those stitches went into that moon, and I'm very happy to say that I finished the moon, and then I pulled in a few of these colors down here just to make up to the 800. But my goal this month was to get the moon finished, and I'm really happy that I met that goal. This is a lovely pattern. I love all the blues in this. Blue is my favorite color. I love the white owl as well, but I know that when I start getting really down into this area, I'm really working on the owl. It can get a little bit tedious at times to do so many, I don't even want to say white stitches, but they're white and pale gray and pale blue, and it will be a beautiful effect when it's done, but sometimes, as you know, that can get a little bit tiring on the eyes. But I'm enjoying doing this one as well. Next one I want to show you is Let Freedom Ring by Lila Studio. And so this, I believe I was finishing up the spell. I don't remember which spell it was in Crystal Academy, but I needed to get a few hundred stitches more in it from the last time I showed it to you. So basically what I was able to do was to come down, and I'm missing a little piece here. I'll see if I can fold it a little bit better. There we go. I finished basically this whole floral motif. So it was a few leaves. I got the vase in, and then this is a top of a tree. I mentioned this last time, that I had done this sort of wreath thing here, and this stitching 1/1 in the middle that will eventually say Independence Hall, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And of course, I think I mentioned last time that I could not find the overdyed thread that was required to do this, so I ended up pulling out some conversion I found online from DMC, and I think it's 3051 is what I used. And in the picture, it looks really brown, but both of the conversions I saw online were rather green. Again, this is just something that's outlining. It's not that important. So I said I'm fine with keeping it with the green. So when I went to my local needlework store, the one that's about an hour away, and of course then they had dried time after I already had put all this in, and it is much greener than what is on the picture in the pattern. Again, I'm fine with it. I did not buy it because I'm like, once I've started, this is not worth pulling out just to get a slightly duller shade of green. It's not anywhere near the brown, and so I'm fine with it. But of course, the best way to get something done, find something that you need, is to put stitches in, and then you don't need it anymore. So anyhow, that's Lila Studio. Let freedom ring. Another piece that I worked on. This is Gone Batty from Brenda Gervais. What's her? Anyhow, I can't read that. That she's a designer, and so this is one that I'm working on. I had a goal to get the whole cat done. Did not meet that goal. I'm not going to meet that goal this month, but I was able to come down all the way and at least get to, this is the bottom of the cat, and this is going over in one side of the cat. So I was able at least to get it there, and part of the reason why I really wanted to make sure I got here is that it doesn't quite, this is an 8-inch Q-snap, and it doesn't quite fit in the width of the body. So at some point I will move the Q-snap so that I can get the rest of the cat body in, and again, it just about cuts it off. So if I move the Q-snap even just an inch, that will get me over here to where I need it. So I pulled this out for a variety of things. I think in So You Think You Can Stitch, we had to put in 200 stitches on something that was seasonal, and I said this was seasonal because it was Halloween. I also am doing AB Singo in the Magazine Monthly Cross Stitch Challenge. And I'm not going to show you all the pieces I worked on because it was 100 stitches per piece, and my goal is to get a blackout, and I have 2 pieces that I have left to do, so I'm sure that I will hit it by tomorrow. But U was one of the letters that a lot of people struggled with, and so I said there was an upside down bat. So I put a few stitches in on this just to, more than the 100 was needed because I needed to hit some of the other things, but I love this little kitty, and I do like all the cute little bats that are around there. So again, Gone Batty by Brenda Gervais. Another one that I worked on a little bit more was, this is Little Cake Shop, artwork by Aimee Stewart and charted by Heaven and Earth Design. So probably can't really tell my progress, and I did put a few hundred stitches in. Basically, I started pulling colors from this side, and in this, I think this is actually a poster, from here, and was pulling, like just literally going down, and as I came across a symbol doing it, weren't that many of those stitches in here, but a lot of them appeared over in this one, so I was able actually to get a lot of progress in over that. A lot of it was very light color threads, so it was a little bit hard to see what I actually had done. I think it comes up better when it's a little bit denser. But again, I love the colors in this. I'm not even sure that there is any 310, and there's very little gray in it, so it's a nice contrast to work on this for a while and then pick up Midnight Vigil, which I feel is almost nothing but blacks and grays, with some 3371 thrown in. And this was my Whip Go piece for September, so I met my Whip Go goal of 1,000 stitches on this. Next piece I'd like to show you is my focus piece for the year, and this is Heaven and Earth Designs, Cats in the Toy Box, artwork by Lesley Anne Ivory. So I put in a few thousand stitches since the last time I showed it to you, and so I've been doing a lot, sort of filling in the side border here, and also then, if I want to do something a little bit different, I was pulling colors then to start working on this gray kitty here. And it's been kind of fun because, so I've got the wallpaper, basically all the wallpaper that's visible in this section is mostly completed, and so we start to see the outline of the head of this stuffed animal. Not sure what it is, if it's an alpaca or a sheep or something else. I don't know what it is. I don't think it's a sheep because it has a bridle, and you can start to see sort of some of the bridle coming in and some of the stitches that I got to put in on the reins as well. So piece. I'm still loving working on this. I work on it most evenings while I'm watching TV with my husband. This is a lot of fun, and I hope you guys enjoy looking at it as much as I enjoy showing it every couple of weeks. So again, Cats in the Toy Box by Hade. For the Magazine Monthly Challenge, the theme this month was fun and games. And so I picked up one that I had started before. This is Winter Wonderland. I said they're all having fun and games, ice skating here. And I also, this was the final piece that I did for the semi-sane dominoes. So I need to get 1,000 stitches in on this. And here's where I am now. And I was able to double dip this with So You Think You Can Stitch. We had to, I actually think the other one I showed was Halloween, and this one that had to be seasonal. So it's a very Christmas winter scene. So basically what I have done here, I had done a little bit, I did in the chimneys and a little bit on the roof, but I was able to pull in all here and the brickwork and started on some of the white. I think I need a couple hundred stitches to get this done. This is a piece that moves very, very quickly when I'm working in the house because for the most part, once I just get going, it gets very repetitive. There are some weirdnesses to the house. For example, here, this side has 2, and then all the rest of them have, the width of the brickwork is 2 across, and then these 3 things are 3 across. And I'm sure it has to do with they wanted to make sure that all this was balanced up there. And so, but again, once you see it once, it's easy to sort of follow it and just bring it down. It's not that it's 2, 3, 2, or whatever going, and you have to check every stitch. One thing that surprised me about this piece is this roof. This is a blended thread, so it's, I think, 807 and 926. 807 is a very turquoise blue, and 926 is sort of a grayish blue. And so obviously the 807 you can see clearly. This is a 28 count fabric that I'm doing 2/2, but the original design calls for doing 3 strands on a 14 count aida. And I was surprised that the strand that you're supposed to use twice is the 807 because that's more the dominant color. And so I'm glad that I'm only doing 2 because I can't imagine how bright the roof would be if I used 3 strands on it, 2 strands of the brighter color. I love the color. I love that these are not necessarily traditional colors. Makes it a little bit more fun to stitch. One thing about this house also is that it's got a lot of back stitching that still needs to come. So basically all of the cement that you would see between the bricks, that is all back stitch, as well as in the roof, just to make the individual shingles. And so there's just a lot of back stitch, as was common with lots of designs in the 90s. The next one I'm going to show you is Tug of War by Mystic Stitch. So I've shown this before. I'm still stuck in the background, so not that interesting to show. Here's where I am. I basically just started pulling colors and doing it here. This gap here is the clothespin. I've sort of made a decision that once I finish this page, I'm going to move down and start doing the page below so I can start working on the quilt. I am going to get a couple hundred more stitches in this either today or tomorrow because I am doing this for the letters of the month, and the letter that's Q, and it's a quilt for Q. And the last piece that I stitched on that I want to show you, this is We Are the Same. I didn't even pull out the the cover photo, because it's not that, it's not a good printout, and you can almost see the whole thing here. So this is a freebie that Beth Twist from Heartstring Samplery did, and it's called We Are the Same. And basically I finished all of the words. I just need to finish the borders. You can tell it's a little bit incomplete. It does not come across the bottom here. So once I get, everything fits into the Q-snap, and then I still need to do a few heads of the people here. One of these people has a big head. I think I did it a stitch too wide. It's not a big deal. I'm not going to pick it out. I honestly don't remember which one that was because I probably did it last year. I'm just going to go with it. So this has been a fun stitch. I am going to try and finish this over the next couple of days. In No New Starts, they have something called Knock-It-tober, which basically is trying to get as many finishes as possible during the month of October, although they said go ahead and start it in September. But the idea behind it is that to knock out some of either whips that are closest to their finish, so they don't have them lingering into 2022 for those people who want to do No New Starts 2022. So I will be participating in No New Starts 2022. I think I'm going to do the work, it's WDW, so I think, or WYW, Work Your Whips. But the idea behind that is you don't have a lot of new starts. You sort of put out there what you have and you work on them, but occasionally you can earn new starts, updating or making sure that your albums are up to date and things like that. And so I think that's probably what's been best for me. Doing No New Starts this year has been really good for me in terms of getting progress on some of my existing projects. But occasionally there was a stitch along that I wanted to join and I sort of felt constricted that I couldn't join it. And so this will, this version will allow me from time to time start things, but not start everything. Because sometimes it's so tempting when someone shows a beautiful pattern that you just want to jump in and do it. And you spend a lot of time pulling everything together and then you work on it for a little bit and then you put it down and don't come back to it for a while. So a few things that were stitch alongs this year. I did purchase the patterns and they are in my possible starts, which we have a 2-week reprieve at the end of the year that we can start whatever we want, and then we'll carry those into the next calendar year, into 2022. So that's all the stitching I have to show you. I'll show you a little bit about my plans. So for October, for my Whip Go pieces, it's 2 full coverages that were drawn. So the first one I want to show you is, this is Artecy's High Intensity, the cropped version. So here's where I am now. So of course I'm holding it sideways. So anyhow, this is the tail of the jaguar, and then these are sort of his hind haunches. So I'm looking forward to pulling this one out. This is on a 14 count, and so it goes very, very quickly when I'm working on it. It just feels like I'm making more progress even if I'm just putting in the same number of stitches. And the second one that was drawn was another one by Artecy. This is the Green Dancer, artwork by Edgar Degas. And here is where it is now. Both of these coincidentally are my smallest full coverage pieces, which means that I'm actually the closest to getting finished on them. So the Green Dancer, I don't want to pull off the Q-snap, but there's actually 3 full pages on the top here that are already completed. And so I would like next year to get at least one of these full coverages done. I think it's feasible. I just have to put a little bit more focus into them to make them a priority over some of my other items. But I really enjoyed working on all of them. And then the last item I want to show you for the Magazine Monthly Challenge, the focus in October is Kaleidoscope. And so basically they've defined that as something that is colorful. And so I decided this would be a good opportunity for me to pull out In the Garden. So this is the pattern here. And because I just said all those flowers are really colorful, and my the linen that I'm using is even brighter than that in the photo, and so it just makes some of these colors really pop. So I don't know how much I'm going to be able to get done in the next month, because I really do want to focus on projects that are getting closer to completion. But I will make myself a goal probably to get a couple more of the birdhouses done. I also today have to get 100 stitches into this, because this is one of the 2 pieces I have left for the AB Singo in order to get a blackout. So that is everything that I have to show you in terms of stitching. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I did a trip this week, or actually about a week and a half ago, to a local needle workshop. And it's not the one that's in my town that just opened up, but this is one that is in Ocala. It's called Brick City Cross Stitch, and she's been around for quite a while. And one of the most notable things about the store is that it has a very good fabric selection, and they have all the fabric on bolts, and so they will cut it to size. And so it's really fun to go there. You go in with whatever project that whether you buy the pattern there and you can pick up exactly what you need, or if you have patterns at home and just do the calculations yourself, but you can go in and get the exact size you need. So it's not just a fat quarter or a fat half, or you can get exactly what you want. They do a great job of cutting the fabric down. And they had a sale about a week and a half ago. So a friend of mine and I went down to Ocala to check out the sale. We went early, and my main goal for going early primarily was because there was a big football game in the afternoon in my town, and the stadium holds, I don't know, like 80,000 people or something, and it backs up traffic everywhere, and I wanted to go and come back before the game started so that I wouldn't get stuck in the mess of traffic that inevitably comes with lots of people descending on the town. So I did go in with measurements for a few pieces of fabric that I wanted, and so two pieces I have to show you. Not that exciting, actually. The ones I went with measurements. This is just a 22 count hardanger. It's an ivory color. I had to special order. They didn't have enough of what I wanted for this. This is the same fabric that I am doing a little cake shop on, and I really enjoy doing some of my larger pieces on this. I think this is a piece I'm going to use for Sunset Koala. I also have another full coverage that I will do, but I think that was given the dimensions of the other one. I think this is for Sunset Koala. And then I also, and I know is not going to show up very well. This is a 32 count even weave. It's called Moon, and it's a very, I would say, a very, very, very pale gray, but it has the sort of a little bit of a sheen. So it's not an opalescent fabric, but it just has this sort of touch of like almost like what a brightly lit moon, sort of that color. And I was really happy that I found something like this, because I have a project that and I'll show you later, a lot of my kitted projects that I want to do in 2022. But I wanted something that wasn't stark white, but it didn't need to have a lot of color either. And I'll show that to you. So I was very happy to find this. I also love my blues, and so so she had pieces of fabric that she would cut down to smaller sizes if you wanted to, but just basically all that fabric was 50% off. And so I got two pieces of fabric flare in different shades of blue. So here they are. They're very, very similar in color, and I just didn't bother to have them cut down because I have ideas of what I want to use these for, but I didn't have the measurements with me, and because it was 50% off, I'm like, if they're too big, I can always cut them myself later. But also one of the great things that they do at the store is after they cut and measure them, they serge everything. And so I was really fortunate to have so nicely serged fabric. Obviously, if I cut it myself, that one edge won't be serged, but I'll be fine with it. Also, they had, random pieces of paper. They had just really small baggies of like really scraps of fabric that just, and I didn't bother to get this one serged. But I just bought, this is a sort of small, it's actually not that small, long, but you can see it's transparent. And I do have an idea what I'm going to use this for. So this one was on sale as well. Okay, love my blues. Also picked up some patterns. The first one I'm going to show you was not on sale, but I couldn't help myself. So this is obviously a Mira. This is Scarlet, and I just love the dress on that. I think it's so beautiful. So I don't have any plans to start this anytime soon. But I'm building up my stash of Mirabilias, and at some point we'll probably just have like Lisa did from Cross by Floss, where she just sort of did Mira May. I can see myself at one point, probably getting in my 200 stitches at the beginning of or the end of the year, and then just sort of diving full in to do that. But then she also had a number of charts that were 50% off, so I picked them up. So the first one was Rue Crew by Plum Street Samplers. So that was a little cute pattern. I think many of you have seen this one before. And I also picked up, this is Funky Menagerie by Lindy Stitches. This was a style that she did in, I think she released it at the very end of 2020 to go on in 2021. And it's just a bunch of little animals that are unique in nature, and it just has that whimsical feeling that so many of Lindy Stitches patterns have. And I already have several of her patterns already started, several others kitted up. Have this one as well. So I have plenty of Lindy stitches to, as she likes to say, stitches that make people happy, and her projects certainly do. And then the last one I picked up in terms of patterns was this one. This is just little sort of animals. And part of it was $1, so I'm like, why not? And part of it also was because it has this zebra. And one of the, when I learned cross stitches in Girl Scouts and did a few patterns, and then when I was in high school, I stopped and probably stopped working on it for several years. And the pattern that I was working on at the time was a zebra pattern. It was not this one at all. It was just a couple of zebras, and it was, I think there was probably like 2 or 3 colors in it, the white, the black, and then I think there was some greenery in it for like shrubs and stuff. And it wasn't holding my interest. I had lots of other things I was doing in high school. And so I ended up, I think I actually threw it away because it had been several years. I'm like, I'm never going to do this again. So I just threw it out. Of course, when I was in college, I picked up cross stitch again. And I've always felt a little bit guilty about throwing away that zebra. So happy to have a zebra back in my stash again. So at least some of that guilt might be a little bit assuaged. She also then had sort of mystery bags, and they were marked linen or aida. And so I just assumed that they were going to be like, you know, you see occasional grab bags of from stores or dyers that it's like, you don't know what's going to be in the bag until you buy it and open it up. And so I just thought, okay, there's going to be like small scraps of linen, and but it was stiff. So I said, okay, there's going to be a pattern or 2 in here. What it actually was a whole bunch of patterns and a couple of small squares of linen. So this is one square of the linen. It's just sort of green opalescent here, and then another beige. So that was the only linen in the bag. But then there was, holy smokes, a ton of patterns. Some more to my liking than others, but the whole bag was $6. So I figured even if I just did one pattern, the whole thing would be worth it. So this one by Praiseworthy Stitches, Mon Petit Jardin. So that's a really nice one. Another one that's a little bit of an oldie, Pink Conch. This is called Jewels of the Sun Collection, and it's based on an original watercolor. I don't know what that actually is. Again, probably something I would never do, but again, a cute pattern. Another one was from Glendon Place, and this is Strawberry Shortcake. And I love these dessert series. And normally these sort of geometric patterns don't appeal to me so much, but there's something, maybe it's because it has the word dessert in it, and I love desserts. But I really do love this series, and so I was really happy when I was able to get it, this pattern. I may not use the exact colors that are called for. They have an option with most of them are like dinky dyes and stuff, but so I'd probably just pull my own colors and do it. But really happy to get that one. And then, yes, and then starting moving into, let's see, there's this one. Some really cute little patterns in there from the Blue Ribbon Studio. And it includes a corner gauge in there, which I've been looking for one, so happy to get that. And then I also had, there was, let's see, an old issue of Just Cross Stitch. So cute little Halloween pattern. I believe this is October, like the mid-teens. And then sort of just moving into a really old, this is called the Cross Stitch Magazine. So, and these are the only full pictures in there. So most of them probably are not to my taste, and but I do like this one of the Smithsonian here. I lived in the Washington, D.C. area for quite a period of time, and when I was for work, when I was living in lots of different places, D.C. was my home base. So even if I wasn't living in the area, I would have to frequently go back there, and so it's a very comfortable place for me. And the Smithsonian Castle is beautiful. So for those of you who aren't aware, the Smithsonian Museum system The Smithsonian Castle is actually not a museum in and of itself. It is just where they have a lot of their administrative offices, but it's on the mall, and it's a really unique building for DC. But I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what year this was, and we finally decided it was the 80s, because you get these, you know, the hairstyles alone, and then sort of looking through the patterns were from like 81 to 83. So I assume some point in the early 80s this was compiled and put together. There was also another little pattern in the bag, but I went with my friend and we went to lunch afterwards, and as I was digging through my bag, it was a little like Christmas tree chart, and it had a little charm, and she thought it was really cute, and it was very cute, but it probably was something that I wouldn't do on my own, so I just gave it to her. And she had left her bag in the car, so I went back to the car. She started going through it, and she's like, "Hey, do you want, some of these?" And so the first one she gave me, this is a John Clayton, and I believe this is Tuscany, so this is Heritage Crafts. So she's like, I don't do full coverage, so she gave it to me. And then the second thing that she gave to me was this Just Cross Stitch magazine. So I really do like this cover photo as well. It's sort of the stained glass look. And she said, again, she doesn't do full coverage. And I said, well, there's other patterns in the magazine. And she's like, yeah, she's like, I don't really do things for magazines. So that was a lot of fun shopping. The only other thing I got was the bead pack for my Mirabilia. Oh, and then also in the bag, there were a couple other little things. There were some pearl cotton that was in there. Some little white beads, and there was a charm in there. I think that is a reindeer. So, just lots of really, for $6, a lot of great variety in the bag. Some dated, some maybe things I wouldn't do. But again, for $6, even if I only did one or two things out of there, it's certainly worth the money. So that is all I picked up at that store. That was a lot of fun to go there, and I did order one more piece of fabric that hopefully will come in within the next month or so for one of my full coverage starts that I want to do. In addition to all of that, if that wasn't enough fabric, my 3 fabrics of the month came in. So first one from Fortnite Fabrics. I'm in the gray club, and all these are 32 count. This is called Pick Me. And the second one is from Bestitch Me, and this is after the harvest. And it's really a lot. Unfortunately, it won't come in well, but it really is much warmer, a warmer brown than is coming here. And like where you see those white splotches are actually light brown splotches. So it's a really, really beautiful color. And then the last one was from Color and Cotton. Again, it's a little bit warmer than it's appearing here. And this fabric does not have a name. It's just one of their special editions that they do for their fabric of the month. So that's not something you can get from their website. So that is all the cross stitch I have. I hope that you have liked what you've seen. And I just want to talk a little bit about what I've been reading and watching. So for reading, I've sort of found that with my audiobooks, my sweet spot is doing memoirs and nonfiction, which is not something that I tend to pick up a book, whether it's on a Kindle or a physical book. And part of the reason why is that, one, a lot of times memoirs are read by the people who wrote them. And so they're putting the emphasis when they're reading on how they were feeling at that time, and you don't have some actor's interpretation of it. And secondly, because they're based on real people, one of the things I love about fiction is that I can imagine the people as I'm reading it. And yes, the author might give a description about them, but what their voice sounds like and what they look like, it all is in my head, and I'm able to build my own story. And that's part of the reason why when a movie comes out, I hate to watch a movie if I want to read the book, because I'd rather have that image in my head before I read it, before I watch the movie. So the one of the memoirs I finished was Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey, which I'm sure most of you are aware. He's an actor, and it was well written, and he obviously read it. And one of the it doesn't so much focus on what it's like to be an actor. I mean, he does talk a little bit about what happened after A Time to Kill came out, and the going from being an absolute nobody to becoming someone who was really famous. but it's really not about that. It's about sort of his life journey and self-discovery and realizing to him what was important, and also some of the decisions he made, because I think as many of you know, for about a 10-year period he was very much into the rom-coms, and they're fun to watch, but there wasn't a lot of substance to it, and he talks about his decision to move away from that and move into more serious drama again. And it was interesting to hear that thought process, and sort of why he made that decision. And in particular, it was the Dallas Buyers Club, which I thought was an incredible film. And so he talked a lot about how they had to do it on a shoestring budget and just sort of everything that went into making that film, and his desire to do it, and him and the director or producer, I can't remember which one he talks about, but there's such a strong desire to get the film made that what they were willing to do in order to, make it sound like it's something nefarious, which isn't at all, but their willingness to start shooting and doing lots of things before they knew that they had the full financing, and he had to lose a lot of weight for that film, and his preparation and just everything that went into it. So I appreciated hearing that. The other book that I'm listening to, an audiobook, another memoir, it's called Stolen. I believe it's Elizabeth Gilpin. I might have her name wrong. But this is I haven't finished it yet, but this is a memoir about a girl who was a troubled teen, and her parents' way of dealing with her difficult behavior was they basically sent her away first to a survivalist type place, but basically a place where they sort of force people to live in the woods and eat sort of very basic food, and to do things and sort of make them sort of come face to face with the issues they're dealing, or allegedly come face to face with the issues they're dealing with, and later going to a boarding school that was more comfortable, let's put it, physically comfortable, not living in the woods, but also really a place for allegedly troubled teens. I'm a little over halfway done with it, and I don't like to necessarily recommend books before I have finished them, but so far this is really well written, and it's also, I don't want to, I'm not giving anything away, but basically she says it early on that basically she, now looking back as an adult and having gotten the proper treatment, that her acting out was really, something that she was dealing with depression, and that she, and acting out for her was, yes, she was lying to her parents, and she had a lot of anger and would say horrible things to them, and she would do sort of teenage drinking, but she was a good student, she was an athlete, she had a lot of positive things, and so her parents basically couldn't deal with what she calls herself rebellious teen attitude, and again, that is in a lot of cases fairly typical, and so they thought the way to deal with it was to send her away to these very austere environments so she could address them. And she was later, as an adult, diagnosed with depression and has found ways to deal with it. I haven't gotten to the end of the book yet, so I don't know if she has reconciled with her parents or not, but it's very compelling to listen to her. Again, the author who wrote the memoir is the one who is narrating the book, so it's very compelling to listen to. And one of the things that they always talk about, the millennials this and millennials that, but I think one of the great things that millennials, in addition to their technology and finding creative ways to use it, is also the focus that they have put on the importance of getting help for mental health issues, and that it's not meant to be a stigma, but rather something that if you have issues, mental health issues, that you need to look at that. Yes, they could very well have a medical background or medical cause, and that you need to get treatment for it. And therapy is not shameful, and a lot of things that even in my generation, when I was growing up, if someone was in therapy, it meant something really horrible had happened to them, and they had to work through it. And so I am thankful to millennials who don't take that attitude, but realize that mental health is as important as physical health. And then, not dealing so much with mental health, but what I've been watching, one of the shows that we've been watching is Atypical, which is about a teenager who is on the spectrum. He is autistic, but he is a good student, and just sort of how is he dealing with the world and how do his parents relate to him and his sister, and then he's got a good friend that he works in like a, I can't remember the name of the store, but like a Best Buy type place. It's not Best Buy, it's fictional, but a friend that he works with there, and just how does this teenager navigate the world. And and they talk about atypical or neurotypical, and I'm pretty sure the actor who is playing the lead is not autistic, but they have a number of other characters who are, and I do believe that the people playing those characters are autistic themselves, and it's really nice to see a television show that isn't just portraying people who are not neurotypical, but actually giving roles and opportunities to people who are not neurotypical. So it's a really interesting show. My only, I don't want to say flaw, but a lot of these shows try to demonstrate, that even though you are considered atypical, if you put your mind to it, you can achieve it. And unfortunately, there are plenty of people who are not able to succeed. And they do talk about at one point that 4 to 5 people who are autistic, who go to college, and then they sort of play with it, but don't graduate in 4 years. Which in the United States is the typical number of years that people take to graduate. And sometimes it would be good to say, hey, are you going to focus on the people who don't, if they would portray people who don't succeed and what happens to them. All this, I think it's great to have positive stories, but sometimes I think a little bit of a little bit more about the more typical experience. And the show does touch upon, that the police officer is not interacting well with, with people who are not neurotypical, but that, they do touch on some of those issues, but I believe it's on Hulu, and they call it a comedy. I think it's more a drama that has some comic elements, but nonetheless, we are enjoying watching it. It's sort of a good show to watch, as sort of when you're trying to turn your mind off for the day. It's serious, but not so serious that you're like, oh gosh, what's the world is coming apart, which is sort of what happens if you watch a lot of crime dramas. They like to go for the worst thing possible, and this is sort of a more positive, the best thing possible. So anyhow, that's all I have for you today. I hope that you have enjoyed what you've listened to and seen, and thank you if you're still around. Thank you for still watching. I appreciate all your comments, and I hope to see you again in a couple of weeks. Bye.